After 20 years as a silent partner, he walked into the boardroom expecting their quarterly review. Instead, he found his partners signing papers to sell his shares without his consent. Nothing personal, Vincent, they said, just business evolution. Vincent quietly nodded, shook their hands, and said, "Understood." They had no idea. He'd been recording every illegal decision they'd made for the past decade. Have you ever been betrayed by people you trusted most in business? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might help someone else recognize the warning signs. Vincent Hayes was 45 years old, and this was the story of how his 20-year business partnership ended and how he quietly took his revenge. In 2003, he co-founded TechFlow Solutions with 3 friends. Vincent managed financial control while his partners handled marketing, operations, and technical development. In the early years, they were all equal partners, but Vincent usually stayed in the background dealing with numbers. That's why he was known as the silent partner. The first 5 years were tough. Everyone worked 18-hour days, took no salary, and invested their own savings into the company. Vincent set up the accounting system, handled financial planning, and managed bank relationships. These weren't visible tasks, but they were critical for the company's survival. When the 2008 crisis hit, most of their competitors went bankrupt. They survived because Vincent had been building financial reserves for years. His partners were very grateful to him during that period. Back then, their gratitude seemed genuine. After 2010, business started to grow. Major corporations began using their services. By 2015, their annual revenue reached $50 million. By 2020, it was $120 million. The company had become one of the industry's leading firms. But with success, his partners' attitudes began to change. They started seeing themselves as visionary leaders. Vincent still worked in the background, dealing with numbers, working quietly. The first serious disagreement occurred in 2018. They wanted to establish a new subsidiary. It was financially risky, and Vincent opposed it. Eventually, he agreed, but he recorded the decision. In 2019, they lost a major client because one of his partners acted overconfidently and ruined the contract. The loss was $8 million. In the meeting, they blamed Vincent. He didn't speak up, but he noted this incident too. From 2021 onwards, things became even stranger. Important decisions started being made, and Vincent would find out afterwards. His partners would apologize, saying they forgot to invite him. Initially, Vincent thought it was accidental. He stopped being invited to client meetings. They said financial details would be boring, that he was already busy. Yet Vincent was also good at client relationships.
The biggest red flag came in early 2022. His access to the company's financial reports was restricted. They called it a security protocol. They explained that everyone now had access to specific areas only. As a 20-year partner, not being able to see his own company's financial status bothered Vincent. Have you ever become suspicious when faced with such a situation? Let me know in the comments. Sometimes the closest business associates can be the biggest threat. Vincent's instincts told him something was wrong. He had developed a habit of recording everything over 20 years. Emails, meeting notes, financial documents. He kept copies of everything. Now he decided to be more systematic. He bought a hidden recording device. He started recording important meetings. Additionally, while he still had access to the company's financial data, he backed up records to his personal server. What he discovered in mid-2022 was shocking. His partners were withdrawing money from the company without his knowledge. They were making payments to themselves under the guise of consulting fees, marketing expenses, and technical services. The total amount was $2.8 million annually. Worse still, they were hiding these payments in tax returns. This was both a violation of the partnership agreement and tax evasion. In March 2023, that famous boardroom scene took place, but the real story began a few weeks earlier. At the end of February, one of his partners had called Vincent to his office. He said the company was growing and needed a new management structure. He mentioned that Vincent was wasting too much time on operational details, that perhaps moving to a more strategic position would be good. The following week, another partner came. He said clients now expected more dynamic presentations. He noted that Vincent was a great financial mind, but had become somewhat outdated in the field. He asked if Vincent would like to transition to a consultant position. Finally, the technical director. He explained that there were major changes on the technical side. He said blockchain, AI, and crypto areas weren't Vincent's areas of expertise. He implied it was time to consider retirement planning. He had recorded all three of these conversations, of course, but the real bombshell was the secret meeting on March 15th. He had left his recording device in the meeting room, and his partners, thinking he had left, started talking. His partners were discussing how to remove Vincent. They talked about his 25% stake, that the legal route would take too long. They planned to convince him to leave voluntarily or apply pressure. They said there were some things in the financial records that they could hold him responsible for. The most striking part was their belief that Vincent had always stayed quiet, wouldn't cause trouble, hadn't raised his head in all these years, and wouldn't do so now. They planned to take his shares, take the company public, and become billionaires. This recording alone was enough to destroy them. But Vincent was a patient man. He had a bigger plan. For the following 2 weeks, Vincent continued his usual routine. He showed no signs of suspicion. In fact, he behaved even more compliant than before. During this time, he was doing very different work behind the scenes. He digitally backed up all financial records and stored them on secure servers. He organized evidence related to the company's tax evasion. He documented that his partners were receiving illegal payments. He recorded contact information for the company's biggest clients. Most importantly, he established a new company in his own name. When he entered that famous March meeting, everything was already prepared. Even when he saw the papers they were about to sign on the table, he wasn't surprised. He already knew the scenario. His partners told him they thought this was best for the company. They said he was a valuable partner, but they wanted to chart different paths now. They explained this wasn't personal, just business strategy. They said they wanted to buy his shares and were offering a fair price. Vincent looked at the papers. They were offering $2.3 million. The company's real value was at least $180 million. His 25% stake was worth approximately $45 million. Vincent quietly said, "Understood." He took out his pen and signed. He saw the relief on his partners' faces. Finally, they were rid of him. The next morning, Vincent went to his office for the last time. He gathered his personal belongings and said goodbye. Everyone was acting a bit awkward. Most of his 20-year colleagues knew the situation but couldn't speak up. The accounting manager said she was very upset, that this wasn't fair at all. Vincent smiled and noted that life wasn't fair, but sometimes it was possible to restore balance. That afternoon, he called his lawyer. He told him he was bringing a very interesting case. There were charges of partnership agreement violation, tax evasion, data theft, and fraud. On Monday morning at 9 a.m., while his former partners were starting their normal work at their offices, Vincent's lawyer delivered 3 separate legal notices. Each was charged with different offenses: partnership agreement violation, fraud, tax evasion, financial misconduct, data theft, and computer crimes. At the same time, the SEC and IRS also took action. They began examining the documents Vincent had anonymously provided them. At 10 o'clock, they called in panic. They said lawyers had come, that the SEC had started an investigation. They asked what this meant. Vincent said he didn't know. He suggested that perhaps someone had complained about the company's financial situation. They asked if he had done it. Vincent reminded them that a silent partner wouldn't do anything. During lunch hours, dozens of missed calls came in. Vincent didn't call back. At 2:30 p.m., one of his partners came to his new office. He said they could resolve the situation, that perhaps they had acted hastily, that they could buy back his shares. Vincent noted that yesterday's retirement suggestion was justified, that he had retired. His partner said he needed to help them resolve this situation. Vincent repeated that he was now retired. In the following days, everything developed rapidly. The SEC investigation expanded. The IRS initiated tax audits. The FBI's Financial Crimes Department got involved. The company's accounts were frozen. The 3 biggest clients terminated their contracts. The media picked up the story. Headlines read, "TechFlow Scandal. Partners allegedly stole millions." Vincent's former partners were arrested separately. They were released on bail, but the company was effectively finished. While this collapse was happening, Vincent was growing his own company. Half of TechFlow's former clients switched to him. The best employees resigned and joined him. 6 months later, Vincent's new company had become the fastest-growing firm in the sector. His former partners were trying to defend themselves in court. Vincent never sought revenge. He simply waited for justice. And when justice came, he was ready. A year later, Vincent was sitting on a small cafe terrace by the seaside. His laptop was open, reviewing his new company's quarterly reports. The numbers were perfect. His phone rang. It was one of his former partners calling from prison. Vincent didn't look at the phone. He turned back to the sea view and sipped his coffee. Sometimes, the greatest victory isn't your winning, but watching them lose. What did this story make you think? Share in the comments. And don't forget to share this video with friends who believe in the power of patience and strategy.